Hi, I'm Christian Brindle, and welcome to the Everything Medicare Podcast.
What's up, Everything Medicare Podcast Nation? This is Christian Brindle, wherever you are and however you might be listening to me today, folks. Hope this finds you doing well. And we are on episode 166 of the Everything Medicare Podcast, where every single week I bring you 3 podcast episodes where we discuss your Medicare, your Medicaid, your Social Security, and everything that has to do with that golden age called retirement, folks. Today, I wanted to talk with you everything that has to do, with Medicare Parts A and Part B premiums. So, folks, a very common question that we get here in our office is this, especially when someone is aging in for the first time onto Medicare. But truth be told, a majority of people that are on Medicare don't even realize that they're paying the Medicare Part B premium. I would say more people that are on Medicare don't know that they're paying the Part B premium than the do. More don't realize they're paying it than the percentage of people that do realize they're paying it. And that's tragic. That's alarming, if you ask me. People always ask me in our offices this. I paid into Medicare my entire life. I paid into FICA taxes for my Social Security and Medicare my entire life. Why should I have to then pay a premium for Medicare? And my answer is simply put this. Because when Medicare was first brought into the equation, folks, when it was first basically introduced to the masses, it was designed to do much less than it does today. Let me explain. And this goes into the same process as Social Security. Most people don't realize that Social Security was not meant to be lived off of. Social Security was meant to be just basically like a little bit of a cushion, perhaps maybe a little bit of assistance, a safety blanket to a pension or something like that when it first came into the equation. Now Social Security has gotten to the point where a lot of people that are retired are expecting to live off of it. And I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing or, people should or shouldn't be doing that. That's none of my business. And this isn't the Everything Finance podcast. But Medicare is kind of in the same boat as that, to where, number one, it wasn't expected to cover as many things as it ended up covering today. Fast forward 50 to 60 years later. Number two, the amount of people that were going to be covered on Medicare was significantly less than what it is today. Think about how much the population has grown since the 1960s until 2020. Do you know what the population was in the 1960s? Because I don't, but I am curious. Let's look it up. Because I can guarantee you it's a significant amount less. Okay, so the United States of America's population in the 1960s was 179,323,175 people. That was in 1960 on the dot. Okay. Now, fast forward to today, the United States population is 327.2 million people. So you could say it's almost doubled, which means, of course, the percentage of seniors and the percentage of retired folks, not to mention Medicare disability, those numbers have all gone up quite a bit. And I don't think that they were taking that into perspective. I don't think they were looking this far ahead, almost 60 years down the road as far as the cost of all this. And so because of this, folks, the simple answer is this. The money you paid into FICA wasn't enough. Medicare's in the red, even despite that. And what does this mean? Well, point blank, it means our government is a little bit incompetent. Is that fair to say? Not trying to make this a political episode, but it's something that we need to talk about a little bit. You have to pay a premium because there's not enough money being paid into the system to cover your Medicare bills, to be able to pay for Medicare. And even with you paying in to your Medicare, with your Medicare Part B premiums, and then for those of you who pay Medicare Part A premiums, and we'll talk about that in a second, there's not enough being paid in to put it in the green. It's still in the red. So if they gave it to you without you paying anything, imagine how much more in the red it would be. It would probably blow everything up if it doesn't blow up on its own at some point. I'm going to do an episode on Saturday about what I feel the future of Medicare is. So we'll talk about more of that on Saturday's episode. But I digress. You have to pay into Medicare when you're on Medicare. The only way around it is to either not be on Medicare, get penalties and penalized and those kind of things. The second option is if you're working, you have coverage through an employer, you or your spouse, I should say, not necessarily just you. You can postpone your Medicare. You don't have to pay for it. That's number two. But most people don't want to work in their 70s and 80s, right? I don't know if I will. Who knows? We'll see what I'm like in my 70s or 80s. And the third way is if you have Medicaid from your state government. Medicaid is assistance from your state. In places like California, it's called Medi-Cal. It's not the same everywhere. But with state Medicaid, sometimes if you have a high enough level of their assistance, sometimes they'll pay for your Medicare Part B premium for you. So those are the three ways you can get out of paying it if you're going to be on Medicare. So we kind of got that out of the way a little bit. We all know about the Medicare Part B premium. The Medicare Part B premium being, and it's gone up a little bit starting in 2020, but that Part B premium this year is $144.60 a month. So it's basically a situation where, you pay that premium for Medicare Part B, but how do you pay it? If you're on Medicare and you're listening to this and you don't even know you're paying that Part B premium, but your Medicare is still active, you might say, well, I've never paid that bill, Christian. You don't know what you're talking about. Chances are it's been coming out of your Social Security check every month. It doesn't even show up on a statement sometimes. I have to take a quick break, folks. I'll be back in segment 2, to which point I will be discussing Medicare Part A premiums, why you'd pay them, if you pay them at all, how much they would be, et cetera, et cetera. Medicare Part B premiums, why they might be more than the $144.60, how you can pay it if you're not drawing off Social Security, and the different payment methods we have available to us. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for sticking with me through that break. Let's talk about Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B premiums, okay? So we know about Medicare Part B, right? We talked about it in segment 1. The Medicare Part B premium in 2020, and a lot of our audience probably already knows this because we announced these numbers back in the enrollment period back in 2019, right? In October, November, we did episodes about this. We've talked about this in ample detail. And we've talked about situations why you might pay more for Medicare Part B, but I thought it might be a nice reminder that your Medicare Part B premium is not the same for everybody. If you're in a high tax bracket, you're going to pay more for Medicare Part B than the rest of everybody else. Well, the rest of people on Medicare. I don't agree with it. I don't like it, but they do it. The government, in a way, they don't like me using this terminology, but it's kind of a penalty. They call it an income-related adjustment. But it's really a penalty, right? It's IRMA for short, income-related monthly adjustment. But is it anything really other than a penalty? A punishment for doing too well, making too much money? Something to think about, but this is something that you need to be aware of. If you, in 2020, now keep this in mind, they base your Medicare Part B premium 2 years before this year, the current year that we're in. So In 2020, they're going to be looking at what your income was in 2018. I'm not with it today. In 2020, they're going to be looking at what your income was in 2018. Next year in 2021, they will be looking at your income in 2019. Okay. So essentially, your income is not based on what it's going to be this year. It's based on what it was 2 years ago. So this is kind of how it works. And they base it off of if you file individually or jointly as a married couple. So if you're $87,000 or under income 2 years ago as an individual, or if you're filing a joint tax return, it's got to be $174,000 or under. You will be basically looking at $144.60 a month. A majority of people on Medicare, I would say. Now, if you're over those numbers, if you're between $87,000 a year to $109,000 a year as an individual, or $174,000 a year to $218,000 a year as a joint married couple filing taxes together, you pay a little more. You pay actually $202.40 a month. What about the next level? If you're from $109,000 to $136,000 as an individual and $218,000 to $272,000 as a married couple, you're now at $289.20 a month. What about the next level? If you're from $136,000 to $163,000 as an individual and $272,000 to $326,000 as a married couple, you're now up to $376 a month. And it goes, folks, all the way to where, the highest you could possibly be paying for Part B is $491.60 a month. And there are people out there that pay that based on what your income was 2 years ago. So that's Medicare Part B. But what about Medicare Part A? I thought Medicare Part A didn't have a premium, right? Well, for most cases, yes. Medicare Part A is what your FICA taxes all of your life paid for. That's what it was going towards. That's what it was paying for. Medicare Part A. Medicare Part A typically doesn't have any premium attached to it as long as you've worked in the country for at least 10 years of your life, 40 working quarters at least. But what if someone doesn't have those working quarters? Well, Medicare Part A then costs something, doesn't it? How much? Well, if you're under 30 quarters for Medicare Part A in 2020, you have to pay $458 a month. It's a nice chunk of change, isn't it, for them? If you're between 30 to 39 quarters, so if you're just barely under, you pay $252 a month for Medicare Part A. Now, how do you pay these premiums? Let's talk about this. Like I mentioned in segment 1, a lot of people are on Medicare don't even know they pay for Medicare Part B. In that case, it's always coming out of their Social Security check and they're not even aware of it. It's money they're not getting, the $144.60, or if they're in a higher tax bracket, it's higher than that. But what if someone's not drawing off of Social Security? Well, what they typically do, Medicare does, is they automatically put you on quarterly billing to where they bill you for 3 months at a time of that Medicare Part B premium. And you just mail in a check. Now, if you don't want to pay that way and you'd like to pay monthly, let's say coming up with that much money at one time is too much to bear. And it's understandable for a lot of people. There is a form you can fill out. And all you have to do to get your hands on it is this. Let me find the form myself. But basically, folks, what this form is it's a form you can fill out, send in. You typically want to send it in my opinion, 6 months in advance before your Medicare starts, if possible. Because it typically can take them anywhere between 3 to 6 months to process this form. They're not speedy. They're not the speedy system. They're not McDonald's. For anybody that saw that movie about McDonald's a couple years back, the founder, the speedy system, right? They're not the speedy system. But this form is known as the SF 5510 form. So if you go to Google and you Google SF 5510 form, you can find the form, easy to download, print off. Basically, this is a form that needs to be filled out and mailed in to them in order to have your Medicare Part B premiums come out of your bank account every month. You need information about your bank, information about yourself. You mail it in, give it probably 3 to 6 months, and then it will start coming out of your bank account every month. So that's how you do it. These are things you need to know, folks. These are things you need to know in order to be empowered. It's basically a situation that you're empowered if you're in a situation that you know what you're going to be paying, why you're paying it, how much you're going to be paying, what you're going to be paying specifically, depending on your particular situation, income level, how to pay it, depending on if you're drawing off Social Security or not. I wanted to do this episode for those reasons alone. I should take one more break, folks. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. I have some final thoughts I'd like to share with you on this. We will be right back in segment 3. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for sticking with me all the way to the end. Point blank is this, folks. When you're on Medicare, knowledge is power. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, if nothing else, I would say knowledge is power in every aspect of life. The more you know, the more you understand, the more you fully comprehend a subject, the easier you're going to be able to tackle it, get the most out of it, use it effectively, and not get taken advantage of. And that's what this podcast has been since day one. We're getting close to our 2-year anniversary mark. Got a little ways to go, probably about 3 months out in June. I believe that's when we launched our first podcast. I'd have to look specifically. I don't know off the top of my head, but it was in 2018, sometime in the summer. And it's amazing to me how big our audience has gotten and how many people that it seems like this podcast has touched and helped. And I just love that. You know, I hear from people all the time how much the podcast has meant to them, how many questions it answered, how much easier it made the process for them. And that warms my heart. And I can't thank everybody enough so much for listening to us for so long, going with me on this journey. You've seen me get mad. You've seen me stomp my feet. You've seen me throw tantrums. You've seen me go on tirades. You've seen me be happy. You've seen me be mad. You've seen me be sad. So you, my audience, very graciously kind of go with me on different journeys on basically everything that's going on in the world of Medicare and retirement. And I kind of find a way to kind of tie in my own personal life to it a little bit to kind of, give you analogies, make things interesting, to make it to where, this podcast is more about me and what's going on in my life as much as it is about the Medicare world, right? When my daughter was born, so many of you reached out to me. So many of you wanted to basically, give your congratulations to me. And, I've had people from the show reach out to me and ask how she's doing. She's doing great. She's in physical therapy right now. The doctor feels like she might not be 100% physically developed at this point. She can't sit up all the time on her own. She's not crawling yet, so she's doing physical therapy, but she's doing great. And they don't think she's that behind. They don't think it's anything to really worry about, but they think exercise is good for her. But my audience, are the reason why I do this week after week after week. It's a huge time commitment for me, folks. And everybody that's ever reached out to us to do business with us, I really can't tell you how much I appreciate you. I appreciate being able to know you, being able to do your plan with you, being able to do business with you, and to be your agent. It's an honor. But to anybody that hasn't reached out to us, I appreciate you too. Because you're part of the most fantastic, unbelievable audience in the podcast world, period, point blank. Just wanted to share my thoughts on that, folks. As always, folks, if you live in one of the states we do business in, if this is your first time listening, we do business in the states of Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Oregon, Texas, South Carolina, Florida, and Virginia, soon to be California. Again, that's Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Oregon, Texas, Virginia, South Carolina, Florida, and soon to be California. 9 states, soon to be 10. give our office a call. If you're on Medicare, about to be on Medicare, you're just not sure where to go, if you'd like to talk to me personally, I'd be more than happy to talk with you and see if I can help. We work with all of the largest insurance companies in the industry. We specialize in Medicare health plans. We don't charge anything. That's the beautiful part. And then we take care of our clients long term. We offer year-round customer service to anybody that has a plan with us. Our office number is 801-255-5340, 801-255-5340, and ask for Christian at Christian Brindle Insurance Services and Brindle Insurance Group, folks. We'd be more than happy to talk with you. And as always, folks, if this podcast has helped you in any way, do us a favor. Leave us a 5-star review on either Apple Podcast or Stitcher Podcast. Mention something you liked about the show. It helps us reach more people just like you that need to hear our information. Until Saturday, folks, thanks so much for being with me. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there.